Hi guys, this is Rob from flx.bike, and today we have a special video just for blade owners. The reason is we've had reports from 3 people where the power came off while they were riding and stopped working. We take that very seriously, so we want everybody's bike obviously to work as well as possible. And we investigated those cases to figure out exactly what was going on, and this is what we found out. So this is the battery on your blade and the battery housing. This is what locks the battery to the bike. And what we found out is that in those cases, take some special circumstances, how the bike was made, how the pin was made, the tension in the spring. But anyways, when you're riding over rough terrain, it's shaking around a little bit, and in a special circumstance it can come off of the pin here. So the locking pin can come out of the cavity which it's supposed to lock into and cause a disconnect in power. So luckily none of these batteries actually came off the bike. It's just a momentary disconnect, but that's not something we want. We want the power obviously to always work all the time. So we've spent a lot of time, and actually Pete, Rich, Al all banged heads together on this and came up with a solution for this. So if you look closely at this pin, this is the locking pin. You'll see that it's rounded all the way around the pin. The reason for that is it makes it easy to get the battery in. It kind of gives a ramp to stick the battery in. You can clamp it without actually turning the key, and it makes it easier to get out. It's got a little bit of sliding incline action to be able to get the battery out easily. So that's a good design feature. On all the rest of the bikes, we have never seen this issue before. However, with the blade, we do have increased weight of the battery. Also, it's more built for extreme terrain, so we need something a little bit beefier there to ensure that the battery is as secure as possible. So we've re-examined the pin, and this is what we've come up with. This is what we call the mountain pin. The reason for that is that if you're actually on the mountain going through extreme terrain, it really locks into the battery. It's much more aggressive than the original pin. So you can see here, this edge is completely sharp. There's the tiniest bevel above here. So that's going to sit inside the cavity in the battery, the locking hole, so to speak, and just sit right up against that. So the battery coming out, it's got to butt up this huge 90-degree angle, and it makes it almost impossible to get out without turning the key. On the other side, it does have a ramp. This allows you to get the battery in a little bit easier, but to get it out, you're going to really need to turn the key, and even then maybe even jiggle it to get it out. So the disadvantage of this pin is also its biggest strength. It makes it very hard to get the battery out, which is exactly what we want in this case. So let me show you how to install it on your new blade. We want obviously your bike to perform as best as possible. You probably don't have any issues, but if you did, this will be able to prevent that in the future. So we're going to send you a mountain pin kit free of charge. It's got the pin and all the tools you need so you're not hunting around the garage to make this swap. So in the kit you're going to get the mountain pin, a Phillips screwdriver. This is an Allen key which will allow you to loosen up the pin, and a crescent wrench which will allow you to loosen the barrel plug on the battery housing. So this is how you install the mountain pin. First, you're going to put the keys in and take your battery out. Next, we're going to use the Phillips screwdriver and just remove the Phillips head screws from here to be able to get the battery housing off. So there's one up here holding this panel. Okay, and just make sure you put these all in a place where you won't lose them. There's also one inside here. That's on the underside. This is the reason we provided the screwdriver, because if you use a normal screwdriver, this gets in the way and you strip it. So this is why we have a short screwdriver. Okay, and there's also one screw up here. So that's 3 Phillips screws in total. So once you've unscrewed the screws, the next step is to take this, it's called the jam nut, off of the barrel connector for the battery. The reason is we can't get the pin out because this is in the way. So using the 24mm crescent wrench, we're just going to unscrew that. I cheated a little bit because mine was already a little bit loose, but you get the idea. So we'll pull that nut off. And I like to do that before removing the housing so I don't have to get both hands on. So my screws are already loose. Let's see if I can just pop this off. Great. And the barrel plug will come right off. Okay, so now we've got the housing. You can see how the pin works inside of here. And all we've got to do is remove this pin. So to do that, we'll need the Allen key that's provided in the kit. And you'll see right here there's a little set screw. This is what holds the locking cylinder in. So I'm just going to put that in the set screw and unscrew it counterclockwise. It'll take about 3 turns, so that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, now with 3 turns you'll notice the lock cylinder can start to be removed, but we don't need to remove it all the way. We'll just pull it out about 1/4 of an inch and see if we can pull the pin out. Bingo. So that's the pin. So we've got the pin out, and you'll notice right here it also has a spring on it, which is what gives it that springiness to it. We'll need that with the new pin, so just going to take that and pull the spring off, and we'll just put it on the back of the new pin. So we've got our stainless steel custom CNC'd mountain pin here, and the spring, I'll just stick that in the back. Fits perfectly, very precision engineered. Loving this thing. And now with the key in the position we had it last, so pulled out about 1/4 of an inch, and the mountain pin flat side facing the key, I'll just insert that into the battery housing and push the key cylinder back in. Now you should be able to move the pin with the key. It should move backwards and forwards and still feel springy. So that's how it should look. So now I'm just going to turn it those 3 turns clockwise this time. 1, 2, 3. And this is actually an important maintenance bit as well. So this screw, if it's too tight, there won't be any springiness to the pin and it won't rebound by itself. If it's too loose, the lock cylinder will come out. So every once in a while it's good to check that for tightness. What I'll do is just tighten it up a little bit more. Now I've got no rebound, the key doesn't turn, so I just want it as tight as possible and it's still working. Still no rebound. Loosen it up. Still no rebound. So I had it pretty much exactly where it should be. Now it rebounds. I'll leave it there. So that's the pin in. Now all we've got to do is put it back on the bike. So we'll just go exactly the opposite of how we got this off. We're going to stick this barrel plug, and do notice that there is an index on the plug, so there's a little slot on the bottom that lines up with a slot on the battery housing. That's to make sure it's in the right position. So we'll put that in there and then slide this battery housing right into place, and we can start bolting things down. So you notice it'll slot in there just right, and then I'll put these screws in and we can fix the barrel plug. Now we've got to secure the barrel plug, so I'll just wiggle it around, make sure it's in the index properly, and put the nut back on it. So make sure the threads are lined up on this. Don't want to cross thread it. That feels good. And I'll go as far as I can by hand, and the rest of the way with the wrench. Okay, that's about as tight as I want it. I can feel it pretty tight. And this is, remember, the barrel plug is plastic. This is metal, so if you keep cranking on it, eventually it's going to strip the plastic. so don't go too overboard. Alright, now that's all in, just missing the cover and the battery housing. Pop that on real quick. Line up the screw. Okay, so that's it. The battery housing is installed, and to use it, it is a little bit different than normal. One thing to note is that this new pin is both 1 millimeter longer than the original pin, and it has a much more aggressive angle all around it. So that means there's more contact. It's going to be harder to get the battery in and out, which is exactly why we made it. So to put the battery in, stick it in the bottom just like normal, and you could push it in, it will work that way. Still does have a bevel. To get it out, you definitely want to be using that key. And notice, you know, I really had to pull on this thing to get it out, which is very good. So you can click it in if you want. Get it out, make sure you've got that key turned all the way. So I hope you guys noticed just how much I really actually struggled getting the battery out right there, which is exactly what we want. That was with the key in the open position, so you can be rest assured with the new mountain pin in the lock position, that battery is definitely not going to go anywhere. So we hope you guys enjoy this little modification for your bike. We love you, and enjoy the ride.